Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 903 for the 25th of January 2026. Richard Saunders coming to you from balmy, sunny and more sunny Sydney, Australia. Coming up on this week's show, a bit of a strange situation for those listening to the show on YouTube this week, because we're going to be talking about a product that if I mention it and it goes on YouTube, well, the show's been kicked off before. I mentioned this last week, this problem. So for those of you listening on YouTube, the product is the opposite of white. Got that in your head, the opposite of white. And the first part of the word salvation. Yep, it's a medical product. Well, no, it's not. It's quackery. It's dangerous quackery. We're going to be talking about that. For those of you listening on the podcast, as in through your earphones, through the podcast feeds, and not on YouTube, of course, we are talking about. And for those listening on YouTube, you would have heard a funny sort of beeping noise or a ding or something. I'm sorry I had to do all this. Those listening on YouTube, we're going to be talking about and the recent prosecution of somebody selling this or using this dangerous nonsense, this corrosive paste that claims to be a cure. A very important story concerning the Therapeutic Goods Administration, and we're going to look at this product, its history, and more about it coming up at the top of the show. Following that, I catch up with Adrienne Hill, all the way in Calgary, Canada, over there in the middle of winter, snowy Calgary, and she's going to be talking about SkeptiCamp in Salinas, California. She flew down. She spoke twice. It was a 2-day event. Once again, the fearless Susan Gerbeck working hard to bring skeptics together, and we're going to find out why these events are so important and some of the interesting and fascinating topics and speakers that appeared at SkeptiCamp in Salinas. Then to round off the show, a bit of a blast from the past, we're going to be looking at references to somebody who, well, used to be reasonably well known in Australia, a woman by the name of Athena Starwoman. Well, with a name like that, a stage name like that, you could probably guess that she was an astrologer, a pretty famous astrologer here in Australia and I think in the United States for a time. The life and times of Athena Starwoman, and we'll be reading one of her characterizations of a certain star sign. And when we do that, I want you to think, is that my star sign? That is, if you happen to know what your star sign is, and I bet you do. Or do you? Now, here's some great news for the people on the Surf Coast down in Victoria. The Surf Coast SkeptiCamp is back in 2026 at Aireys Inlet. What a beautiful place. And you know what? Certain people in that area, hello certain people, went out the other night and looked at the Aurora Australis, otherwise known as the Southern Lights. Anyway, Surf Coast SkeptiCamp in Aireys Inlet, and that's on the 21st of February. We might be talking a bit more about that before long, and what a beautiful part of the world that is indeed. And speaking of getting together with fellow skeptics and other thinkers, very exciting news we can announce officially now. Of course, everything's been firmed up with dates. Noticon, the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe crew, the Rogues, are heading for Sydney, Australia, and they'll be here on the 22nd to the 25th of July for Noticon. Now, you can go to notaconcon.com to find out more, or just follow the links. In fact, there is a sticker, a image, a link on the Skeptic Zone home page near the Logical Fallacies with Michelle Bickersma and On the Moans with Kate Thomas. You'll find Noticon plus Skepticon. So it's the two conventions in one. It's also the Australian Skeptics Annual Convention, where we will be doing things like giving out the Bent Spoon Award and other awards. Anyway, yes, the Skeptics Guides, Rogues, plus George Harab and guests will be heading to Australia. Tickets are already selling. This is amazing. We've had scarcely anything like the response we've had so far to this. It's been great. So if you want to join in on the fun, now's the time to get your ticket. Once again, the link is available at the Skeptic Zone homepage. Well, that's more excitement than I know what to deal with. I'm going to lie down for a little while, have a nice cup of tea, ginger tea with crumpets. While I do that, obviously after I run downstairs, while I do that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. As mentioned at the top of the show, this segment is going to be about a product. And if you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, whatever you do on YouTube, you won't hear the name of the product. I think, though, you could work out what it is. For the rest of you listening on your podcast feeds, of course, we're going to be talking about is a corrosive paste promoted for more than a century as a, quote, natural, end quote, cure for skin cancer and other lesions. Its origins seem to be in 19th century American herbalism, particularly the work of Dr. Jesse Fell, who used zinc chloride mixed with plant minerals. Modern versions typically contain bloodroot, Sanguinaria canadensis, and zinc chloride, both of which destroy living tissue indiscriminately. It's not a matter of this substance targeting certain cells. It kills the lot. Scientific medicine does not consider to be a treatment, but a chemical escharotic. It burns tissue, creating a scab that eventually falls off. Proponents often claim that this process draws out cancer while sparing healthy tissue. There is no credible evidence that can distinguish cancerous cells from normal skin. In reality, it destroys whatever tissue it contacts. The use of is associated with severe injuries, including burns, permanent scarring and disfigurement, secondary infections, and delayed diagnosis of genuine skin cancers. Some people have died after relying on instead of proven medical treatment. Claims that it is safer, more effective, or, and this is very important, it is suppressed by the medical establishment are hallmarks of conspiratorial thinking rather than evidence-based medicine. Because of these risks, has been banned or heavily restricted in many countries, including Australia and the United States. Health authorities consistently warn that it is dangerous and ineffective, and that its promotion exploits fear of cancer and distrust of science-based medicine. From a skeptical point of view, is best understood as not so much as an alternative therapy, but a recurring piece of dangerous medical quackery, one that persists despite regulation, prosecutions, and decades of harm because its dramatic effects are easily mistaken for proof by those unfamiliar with how cancer actually behaves. And that brings me to the current story and the reason for this report on the Skeptic Zone. The Therapeutic Goods Administration, TGA, issued a press release regarding the conviction in October 2025 and sentencing in January 2026 for the unlawful supply and advertising of products by Belinda Gay Harris. Ms. Harris traded under the business name of Tickety Boo Herbal. Penalties included 7 months imprisonment. Ms. Harris was released on a recognizance of $2,000 on condition of good behavior for a period of 3 years with 6 months supervision and fines totaling $20,000. This is not the first time action has been taken by the regulator against this dangerous product. In 2012, the Australian Vaccination Network Inc., AVN, as it was known at the time, subsequently it's been called the Australian Vaccination Skeptics Network and then the Australian Vaccination Risks Network, and its founder, the 2009 Bent Spoon Award winner Meryl Dorey, were ordered to stop advertising by the Therapeutic Goods Administration Code Council and Complaints Resolution Panel. The advertising occurred on their website via sales of the DVD One Answer to Cancer. It is notable that such groups often cite various conspiracy theories, such as claims that Big Pharma and or the Australian government don't want you to know about this product. Products marketed as are not registered or approved as therapeutic goods in Australia and have no credible scientific evidence supporting claims that they can treat cancer or other serious diseases. Health authorities, including the TGA, explicitly state that there is no credible or reliable evidence that cures or treats cancer. It is considered highly dangerous, and people are strongly warned against its use. Adverse events associated with include skin necrosis, that's the death of the tissue, disfigurement, and deep scarring. Consumers are encouraged to report counterfeit products, suspicious or illegal activity, or non-compliant advertising to the TGA. Now, I will link in this week's show notes to the press release by the TGA, which goes into more detail about this case, including comments from the judge. And at the end of the press release, it says if you suspect non-compliance in regulation to therapeutic goods or their advertising, you can report it to the TGA at any time. So they want you to be their eyes and ears in respect. If you come across something which you consider to be false advertising when it comes to a so-called medical product, in this case a dangerous medical product, then you can let the regulator know. And I think there'll be more of that coming up in the near future. Now, I mentioned before a DVD called One Answer to Cancer, and it promotes as a universal suppressed cure for cancer. It was marketed as a documentary and relied heavily on personal testimonies, dramatic imagery of skin cancers, and also claims of medical persecution to argue that a simple natural treatment has been deliberately hidden by governments, doctors, and pharmaceutical companies. It presents as an ancient and natural cure, frames conventional cancer treatment as corrupt or ineffective, and regards visible tissue destruction as proof that cancer is being removed. What it does not provide is controlled clinical evidence, pathological confirmation of cancer diagnosis, or long-term follow-up demonstrations of cure or survival. The film misunderstands or misrepresents basic oncology. It does not target cancer. It destroys all living tissue indiscriminately. The DVD's central visual argument that material expelled from the skin is dead cancer is scientifically meaningless without laboratory analysis, which it does not provide. Serious harm, including disfigurement, infection, and cancer progression due to delayed treatment, are ignored or dismissed. Health authorities and cancer specialists regard One Answer to Cancer not as a documentary, but as promotional material for a dangerous product. Its persuasive power lies in emotional storytelling and distrust of institutions, not evidence. In skeptical terms, the DVD is best understood as a piece of medical propaganda that has contributed to real-world harm by encouraging people to reject proven cancer care in favour of a corrosive paste. And I remember seeing this DVD on sale at Sydney's Mind, Body, Spirit Festival, or as we'd like to call it, Mind, Body, Wallet. In fact, let me just have a quick look through my Mind, Body, Spirit archives here. That might make a good segment for a show one day, going back through those particular archives. And indeed, looking through my files, my archives of Mind, Body, Wallet, Mind, Body, Spirit, I opened the 2015 file, So just 11 years ago, and there it is on sale at Mind, Body, Spirit, Mind, Body, Wallet. One Answer to Cancer. They don't want you to know about ... One Answer to Cancer, says the DVD. And here's a picture of the back of the DVD. Hello, there are people in the back. Ooh, there's a photograph of a gentleman, and it says, quote, in every case where we have treated primary breast cancer with the salve, we have had 100% success, end quote. Adrienne Jones, naturopath. And the next image is of a lady there, and it says, quote, the most aggressive type of breast cancer gone, end quote. And that is by Merrill Powell. And in brackets it says, inductile breast cancer. And the next picture is another gentleman that says, quote, thanks for saving my nose, end quote. Bill O'Leary, basal cell carcinoma. And one more picture here. Quote, this was my lifesaver. There's no survival rate. I'm it, end quote. Tanya Anderson, deadly Ewing sarcoma, goes on to say, the bad guys won't like it, but this movie will teach you exactly how to make your own cancer salve for yourself. Then it gives the URL again. Produced, written by Elaine Hollingsworth at doctorsaredangerous.com. Narrated by Tony Barry. Now, according to Google, Elaine Hollingsworth is an Australian health advocate, author, and former actress known for her holistic health philosophies, particularly in her book, Take Control of Your Health and Escape the Sickness Industry, where she discusses natural remedies and critiques conventional medicine, promoting natural healing and diet changes from her base at the Hippocrates Health Centre in Queensland. And I wish I could say, well, that wraps it up for... It's still out there. It's still being used. But at least the regulator is doing something about it.
Oh, look, it's a bank text with perfect spelling and perfect branding. That's a new problem. AI-enhanced phishing. Fake messages saying your account is at risk. You verify on a cloned site, they drain your account. How it works. Realistic email or SMS. Suspicious activity detected. Linked to perfect copy of your bank login. You enter credentials and two-factor code. They change your password and drain funds. What makes you vulnerable? Fear and urgency. What if you have no access to your money? Authority bias. It's a trusted source. AI sophistication. These look perfect now. Your dodgy radar won't work. How to avoid it? Never click links in security alerts. Open the official app yourself. Turn on multi-factor authentication. Save official numbers in your phone. To learn more, listen to the latest Why Smart Women podcast. Otherwise, have a safe, scam-free 2026.
You can count on Adrienne with Adrienne Hill. Yes, it's Adrienne Hill all the way from Calgary, Canada. But before we get to... Hello, Adrienne. Hello.
Richard. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Before we get stuck into this interview, folks, earlier in the show, you will remember, because you've just heard it, I was talking about Noticon plus Skepticon 42. And this is happening on July 22nd to 25 here in Sydney, Australia. The Skeptics Guide to the Universe crew coming out in combination with the Australian Skeptics National Convention. And I mentioned this, Adrienne, because I'm going to be speaking to you about how important it is to go to events. You know, yes. Conventions, in this case, the Noticon plus the Skepticon. They sort of cancel each other out, don't they? It's a Skepticon plus not a con. We'll figure it out, I'm sure. But I say this, Adrienne, because you're a champion for going and being there and going to conventions, and also, which we'll talk about right now, the importance of SkeptiCamp. Now,
yes,
just recently you were visiting our dear friend and reporter Susan Gerbic, she of 555 fame, in Salinas, California. And I've visited Susan a number of times, although have I seen her since the pandemic? Yes, I think I have. But I was one of the last speakers at Monterey SkeptiCamp before the pandemic, which is near Salinas. But this time I believe you had a SkeptiCamp in Salinas.
Yes, it was the first time that she's held it in Salinas, right around the corner from where she lives. She usually holds it in Monterey Bay. And so I was booked in for this one, and I was so excited to go and see my friends, because that's what it's really about, right? Is hanging out with people that you can have really good conversations with and not watch what you're saying and holding back.
Oh, we all have to do that sometimes. That's
Oh, for sure. And just, we laugh at the same things, and it's just wonderful to meet new people and to meet up with old friends. And so I was scheduled to go to the SkeptiCamp. And I have a funny story to tell you, Richard. You want to hear it?
Oh, yes.
And you're familiar with my brain because...
Well, I mean, as much as anybody can be, I suppose.
A couple of years ago, when you were supposed to come to the Week in Reason conference, and you'd contacted me and said, hey, is it okay if I come on this day? And I went, yes, that's great. And then I proceeded to put the date in the wrong month. And then I saw that, and then I put it on the wrong day. And I was sitting at home at 11 o'clock at night and just about to go to bed. And I get this text saying, landed.
That's right.
And I was just, my heart starts to race, and I'm, oh my God, do I have the wrong day? And I had the wrong day. So that just gives you a little warm up to what happened. So I booked this SkeptiCamp, and I plan things. I'm a planner. And so I booked it months ago. And the Wednesday before the real SkeptiCamp, I realized I'd booked the wrong weekend. And I had to scramble. Luckily, I bought fully refundable flights. And the biggest problem was I had 2 talks scheduled, and I only had now 2 days to prepare these 2 talks and to fly out and make new arrangements for pickup, etc. And I was horrified. But I made it. I was so excited, because the other alternative was for me to wake up Saturday morning with a text from Susan saying, where are you?
Well, that just speaks to your dedication for things like SkeptiCamp. And I do agree.
It's so important.
It's what I love about these sort of things is meeting up with old friends, meeting new people who are interested in skepticism. And you're right. To a certain extent, you don't have to worry too much about, will this person be offended if I don't say I don't believe in Reiki or whatever it is, which happens from time to time. And briefly, tell me about some of the lineup. Who was speaking there?
Well, this is her first 2-day conference. So we had 2 days of speakers. So that's why I got to speak twice. But Leonard Trammell was there.
Oh, yes.
And
a good friend of the show, Leonard Trammell from the Bay Area. Yep.
Exactly. And he always gives a good talk. Kyle Polich was there.
Yep. The Data Skeptic. Yep.
Yes. He has his own podcast. And apparently he's been to every one of her SkeptiCamps, which I think is pretty phenomenal.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I got to meet Mano Singham for the first time, which was delightful. Actually, I have met him before at trivia, but not in person. So it was lovely to meet him. And there was a fellow named Milos Radakovic, and he was highly entertaining. He did a talk about Mars, and he did the whole talk with a Yoda hat on. He's quite a character.
A Yoda hat?
A Yoda hat.
What with the ears and everything?
Yeah, with the ears. It was green, and he's a real character. And for 30 years, he has been a lecturer on celebrity cruises as the science, because he's a biologist. So he's a science person on cruise ships. And so he's used to having to entertain audiences, and he was a delight to have. And I think one of my favorite things, too, is on the last day, he wore a shirt that was all about women in science.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
I loved that. Yeah,
and
exactly.
what did you speak on?
I spoke about ADHD and social media and the myths that are on social media and the beliefs. And that was really appropriate. So I actually started my talk with the two stories that I just gave you, because it was really an appropriate way to start and to show what ADHD really is. And what people don't understand is any of these disorders that you have. And I've done a lot of work for Tourette syndrome and obsessive compulsive disorder over the years, including ADHD. And people will say, well, everybody has it. Well, yeah, everybody has elements of it. It's just when it interferes with your life to an extent, like what I just illustrated,
Yes.
it becomes problematic. And, then we have strategies and medications. And I was really going into some of the funny TikToks that are out there. I mean, I find them funny because they're just so outrageous. Things like the cure for ADHD is money. And I went, well, yeah, kind of. It would help to pay for this.
Isn't the cure for just about everything is money, I think. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I used to feel a bit guilty about wasting time on TikTok until I discovered it's a very useful tool for researching things we're interested in, because all you have to do is type in the topic and you'll see all sorts of people talking about the topic you're interested in. And for me, if I'm looking up various psychic things or this to do with the paranormal or whatever I've been doing lately, various things to do with vaccinations, and you get a cavalcade of people talking about it from all different angles.
Exactly.
It's really great, yeah.
Well, and this was inspired. This talk was inspired by Jonathan Steya, Dr. Jonathan Steya, who wrote a book about minding the science, especially in the mental health industry. And in the book, he quotes that there have been studies about the accuracy of TikTok videos.
Really?
When it comes to ADHD, about 50% of the information is incorrect.
That does not surprise me in the least. I'm sure the things I look up, 90% of the information is probably incorrect.
So it's important, I think, for people to understand, because they'll get going down that rabbit hole and they find all these different cures, and a lot of them are supplements. They're selling supplements. And most of these supplements that they are talking about, unless you have a deficiency, are not going to help with your ADHD.
Right.
But that's what they promote.
And I think our reporter, Kate Thomas, would certainly back you up on that one from a pharmaceutical point of view.
Also, speaking, of course, with Susan, she gave a very brief talk about her psychic stings.
Oh, good, yes.
So then there was Tanner Eads, who has a PhD in physics, and he did a really interesting talk about the scientific method. And I think that's a good one to sort of look at, because we have a tendency as skeptics to say, well, we want it to be double-blinded. We need to have, this evidence. But he says you can't always have double blinding. For medicine, yes, we want to have that as the gold standard. But for things like physics, it's really hard to double blind when you're trying to study planets and stars and things like that.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah.
So it was fascinating.
Wow.
I never thought of things like that. And then his wife, Amy Bix, she's a historian from Iowa State University. And her and Tanner did a sort of a tag team about pseudo-engineering and the history of engineering, and talked about people like Michelangelo. And it was a fascinating talk.
It just goes to underline the point that when you go to things like SkeptiCamp, you never know exactly what's going to happen, who you're going to meet, and what you're going to learn. I think it's a wonderful endeavor, and I know Susan pushes this very hard, and she really encourages people, around the world to have a SkeptiCamp. In fact, we really should have one here in Sydney. We had them up until the pandemic, I think, and that just blew a lot of things out of the water and upset a lot of apple carts.
And they don't take a lot of organization. Like, of course, you have to book a place and you have to advertise it, but it's very informal and you just get together. We had good turnout. We had somebody from Baltimore, which is from the other side of the country, who came.
That's dedication.
It is. And he saw that there was a SkeptiCamp and he thought, I'm going to add it to my holiday. I'm going to make a holiday around the SkeptiCamp. How cool is that?
That's great.
I want to let you know my favorite thing that I learned all weekend. And it's kind of silly, but I'm silly.
Yeah.
And that is, Leonard taught us that the word month used to be moonth, Moonth.
Oh, yes.
What a great piece of trivia. I thought that was so fun. I mean, I learned lots of other things.
And that's where we get Monday from, too.
Oh,
Moon Day.
Used to be Moon Day.
Moon Day, yes, yeah.
Oh,
And month, yes. Yeah,
so I did not know that.
It sort of makes sense.
So little things
like that. Now, where should people go if they want to find out more about this whole SkeptiCamp idea?
Well, Susan Gerbic has a website. It's the About Time Project's website, and you can find the dates and times of her SkeptiCamps there, as well as she has posted the videos from this past one and lots of others on her YouTube channel. And it's the About Time YouTube channel. And there will be links in the show notes, I'm sure. Right,
yeah,
Susan?
I'm sure there will be. I'm sure
I almost called you Susan. Well, and before I go to one other thing, there's another really important SkeptiCamp coming up on Friday, February the 13th, up in Edmonton at MacEwan University.
Ooh.
And Kat McLeod will be there, Rodney Schmaltz, and we've got a great lineup. I'm just working on the poster right now.
Well, that's great news. When we find out more, we'll give some more information on the Skeptic Zone. Wow, I wish I had the Star Trek transporter. I could beam over. I'd love to. Friday the 13th, did you say, or just the 13th?
Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th.
No, Friday the 13th. So we're celebrating fear and love because the next day is Valentine's Day.
Oh, that's funny. What a hoot. That sounds like it would be a great event, and we'll certainly be talking about that more in a week or two. Well, Adrienne Hill in snowy Calgary. Snowy?
Oh, it's very snowy and cold.
Ooh. And
it's beautiful.
From hot and sticky Sydney, Australia, that sounds pretty good to me. Adrienne Hill, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
This is Ben Radford
and Celestia Ward,
coming to you on the Skeptic Zone podcast, one of our favorite skeptical shows.
Back on our podcast, Squaring the Strange, we cover topics like cryptids, ghost stories, and other mysterious phenomena.
If you like tales of the strange and unraveling them to find out the origins, the psychology, and the allure of the weird, well, you might like Squaring the Strange.
New episodes drop twice a month, and our backlog includes folklore, true crime mysteries, psychics, superstitions, conspiracies, panics, urban legends, and more.
Find us on all the popular podcast feeds, and if you like us, subscribe.
No, subscribe first and download like 200 episodes, then decide later if you like us.
Yeah, either way.
Time to go back to the archives, the digital archives from around the world, in the segment we call Trove, T-R-O-V-E. And this is named after the Trove Archives from the Australian government, which digitize and are digitizing millions and millions of articles from newspapers and magazines and photographs and so on. And you can find those at trove.nla.gov.au. And indeed, today we'll be looking at some files from the Trove Archives. But we're going to be looking at somebody who died some years ago who went by the name of Athena Starwoman. Now, I don't know her birth name. I can't find that out. I don't think it was Athena. She died under the name Athena Di Martini, but she was simply known as Athena Starwoman. She was born in 1945 and lived till the end of 2004. She died at the age of only 59. Now, she, in the latter part of the 20th century, was a very well-known media astrologer. She would appear on television, radio, and would have columns in many different magazines, newspapers. She would be the one that people would turn to and say, well, what's coming up this year? We asked Athena Starwoman. I think partly because she had a great moniker, a great name. Athena Starwoman just is a very catchy name. According to Wiki, her grandmother had been a psychic and a mystic, as well as her sister and nieces. Good heavens. After studying astrology in Los Angeles in the 1970s, she returned to Australia and wrote for the Daily Telegraph newspaper from 1978 to 1988. She also had a regular column in Woman's Day magazine and other magazines too, I think. During her final years, she divided her time between a luxury apartment at Broadbeach on the Gold Coast in Queensland and a $3 million apartment on a cruise liner, The World, which she purchased after selling an apartment in New York's Trump Tower. She was married to self-help guru John DiMartini. Athena Starwoman died on the 16th of December 2004 from breast cancer, which of course is a very sad, regardless of what you think of astrology. Now, she wrote many books, including How to Turn Your Ex-Boyfriend into a Toad and Other Spells for Love, Wealth, Beauty, and Revenge, a great book for fall or Halloween, another book simply called Zodiac, another book, Glamazon, How to Be Fabulous, Famous, and Flawless, another book, Zodiac, Athena's Star Sign, the long-awaited guide to the stars by Vogue's renowned astrologer. Yes, of course, she had a column in Vogue magazine. Love Match with the Zodiac, Soulmates and the Zodiac, Discover Your One True Love, Soulmates and the Zodiac, Zodiac Lovers, Think Yourself Thin, Soulmates and the Zodiac again. I think you get the idea. Most of her predictions would seem to be of love and money and that sort of thing. Now, there's barely any of Athena recorded on YouTube, or should I say archived on YouTube. But I do have this clip from a talk show in 1989 where she discusses the upcoming Australian election, and this was from a show called The Bert Newton Show at the time.
He really has his act together.
So Bob's on a downswing, is he?
Yes, I would say that before the end of this year, probably around about October, according to the things that came out at the conference, several world leaders will go. Margaret Thatcher, Bob Hawke, not necessarily under...
When you say go, you mean lose their roles or go?
Well, maybe both. I mean, go can be go. I certainly hope not, that it is that severe, but that is a potential possibility.
Well, one thing you can be sure of, if they go, they'll lose office too, won't they?
Yeah, well, I would say it would also be not a natural thing, it would be an act of violence.
What, really? In which
Mainly
case?
because the Australia chart, where the conjunction, the negative astrological conjunction, this is heavy but it explains it, is in the house of death. So it's like a rebirth situation Australia is going through. It has to suffer to come out of this, and I think... Personally, I'm very optimistic. I think this will be the gloom before the boom. It'll really take off.
So you're not suggesting that there will be necessarily a death of a leading political figure in Australia?
Well, it's possible from the way the astrology chart looks.
Right.
And I certainly don't want that to be the truth, but it is in astrology terms, looking at it as an astrologer, that is a potential.
Now, as it turns out, Bob Hawke, who she was discussing, actually did not leave the office of Prime Minister till 1991. So a little while after she was predicting, but I think it was on the cards. There was a feeling at the time, I seem to remember. And Margaret Thatcher, in fact, left office in 1990, November 1990. There's no recorded things like an act of violence or anything like that. Now let's have a look at the television guide section of the Sydney Morning Herald, dated the 18th of November 1985. And this is talking about an upcoming TV show, Pick of the Day. Is astrology an exact science? Well, not exactly. And this is a review by one Bronwyn Watson of a television show called John Law's World, which is a reasonably popular show at the time, with a radio announcer and part-time TV star John Laws, who died only recently. John Law's World on Channel 10 at 5 p.m. People use them for the strangest reasons: for sex, for business, for gambling, even for gardening. I'm referring to the stars, not the dynasty kind, but the kind we look up in newspapers or magazines, the kind that tell us if tomorrow is going to be testing, the kind that tell us that in 20 words or less that our relationship is going to sour, that we should travel, or that we should buy a house. Of course, most people deny any interest in astrology, but ask them what star sign they are, and most will be able to tell you. In fact, I bet you, dear listener, listening now, probably know what your star sign is, or you think you know. Because of the precession of the equinox, there's a good chance you're not the star sign you think you are, yada, yada, yada. You can look that up. However, if you were in different parts of the world, you'd probably know what your blood sign was, because to other people, that's an important thing when it comes to love matches and whatnot. We read on. Question them further. Are you a typical Cancer? Are you born on a cusp? What signs are you compatible with? A surprising number of people will be able to answer. But do the stars have validity? Can they really affect our lives? And does astrology have a scientific base? These are some of the questions offered answers in tonight's John Law's World special. It's in the stars. Now, I would like very much to have that for my own archives, that show, all the way back then in 1985. Sadly, I doubt if that exists still. Most of the program consists of interviews with people who write the star columns in the media, namely Athena Starwoman and Richard Sterling. They are questioned on what they base their predictions. Some people live their lives by the stars. But says Sterling, I hope people don't take it all as gospel truth. It can't be 100% accurate all the time. Both Starwoman and Sterling seem to be doing quite nicely from the star business. Starwoman drives around in a Bentley and has a beachfront house. Sterling has a magnificent dwelling in the Blue Mountains. One highlight of It's in the Stars is when presenter Neville Dury goes to the races with a professional astrologer, Chris Turner. Using the stars, Turner has worked out a system to pick the winning horse. Keen punters will have to tune in to see how successful her system is. At the end of the program, Dury admits to being rather skeptical about the stars. They can't tell you when to have cornflakes for breakfast. But after researching the program, he says he now believes in the personality part of the stars, but is not so sure about their ability to predict the future. And talking of the future, what of my stars for tomorrow? A romantic touch to your day should be a real highlight. Well, that sounds pretty good to me. Perhaps just for tomorrow, I'll believe in the stars. And here we have the picture incorporated in the little article here is Athena Starwoman. The stars have been kind to her. What I do have is a description of one of the star signs. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this out, but I won't mention the star sign. And I know it's a silly experiment because it's been done many times. Well, it's not silly. It's a good experiment, but anyway, see if this fits you. And next week I might divulge which star sign it is. So, star sign, your element is, I won't say any more because it might give it away. Your ruling planet is, planet. The symbol of your star sign is something. Your stone is a something. Okay, life pursuit, the thrill of the moment. Vibration, enthusiastic. Secret desire, to lead the way for others. Is that you so far? Description. Star sign are element signs. Again, I won't say the element. And those born under this element are regarded in astrology as adventurous, active, and outgoing. It won't matter where you go or how remote or unusual it is, from the outback to the Antarctic. You can be sure that your star sign has been there before you, or at the very least you will meet one along the way. Your star sign is a uniquely naive sign. Although they can be independent, outgoing, and assertive, they are also surprisingly trusting, often innocently walking into the lion's den at times. No matter what the upheaval, challenge, or triumph, your star sign has a wonderful ability to bounce back. Their faith in life and the future remains untouched by hardship. Their gift is that they are always children at heart, and the world is always a magical place for them. Many famous sports people are born under this sign. Your star sign is regarded as the most physical sign because of its name of planet, rulership. It is also one of the most highly charged masculine energy signs in astrology. No wonder women born under your sign are forceful, dynamic, and aggressive. And as a result, these, your star sign women, frequently find themselves with dilemmas surrounding their romantic relationships. So that's why. Now we know. For them, a man has to be a real man to deal with a your star sign woman. Otherwise, she intimidates him. And conversely, for the your star sign male, a woman has to be a real woman to deal with him, because he is looking for many balancing component traits, his true feminine side, in his partner. She has to run the gamut in his support system, from the your star sign's man's best friend, true companion, through to his muse, and yet she must never, ever answer him back. Therefore, your star sign can be a confusing sign because there is a complex combination of very strong masculine and feminine expressions all combined together. Because of the male energy surrounding it, when a woman is born under your star sign, it creates some of the most interesting women in the world, women who are adventurous, independent, and have competitive natures. It also tends to make them very forthright. But whether male or female, your star sign people are doers rather than talkers. They are the impulsive, act first, ask questions or doubts later sign of the zodiac. That's why their lives are often filled with many dramas and sometimes even accidents. Their ability to live life close to the edge provides them with a wealth of real experience to call upon. When your star sign person talks about something or someone, they've usually done it or been there, rather than simply read about it in a book. Being active people, your star sign can't adopt any kind of restriction, particularly possessive relationships. They often travel to escape any feelings of being stuck or possessed. Your star sign people love challenges. In fact, if everything is running smoothly, they are quite capable of going out and doing something, sometimes quite foolish, to rock the boat. Your star sign love to race in where angels fear to tread. By Athena Starwoman. Now I wonder, is that you? And finally, from the Sun Herald, dated the 2nd of September 1979. Moon on strike. And this is in the Tempo section of the newspaper. If your dog howls mournfully this Thursday night and your spouse seems about to turn from Dr. Jekyll to Mr. Hyde, don't be too concerned. It's only because a total moon eclipse is affecting them. Hopefully, they'll revert to norm. And we earthlings are likely to suffer from aches and pains, melancholia, nervous tension, or even severe depression because of it. That's the advice from Athena Starwoman, astrologer. Athena says this eclipse is like cosmic dynamite. Mythology has eclipses high on the list of significant mystical happenings, and in the modern day it seems that for 60 days after a total moon eclipse, many UFO sightings are reported. It seems, says Athena, that eclipses bring them on. Some schools of thought have it that the San Francisco earthquake in March 1957 was heralded first by an eclipse of the sun in 1956, and then happened when another eclipse occurred in 1957. Eclipses have been blamed for many things, from volcanoes erupting, tidal waves, hurricanes, uprisings, and strange behavior patterns in populations all over the world. Athena explains it this way. If you take the moon and the sun as being the yin and yang of our society, and everyone on our planet comes under the rulership of one or the other, it is likely to create some friction in every era, home, school, business, and government. But if people are in harmony with themselves and don't get caught up by others' frustrations, they probably won't even notice it. However, I would advise sailors to wear their water wings just in case. So, if you get out of bed on Thursday and you aren't wearing your nice face, maybe you had better get straight back into bed again and steer clear of trouble. One word of consolation, though, says Athena. The next total moon eclipse isn't until 1982, and it's going to be the really big one. This is just a cosmic practice run. Footnote. For those interested, the Sutherland Astronomical Society are having an open night at their observatory on Thursday. The eclipse begins at 7:18 p.m. and is total from 8:31 until 9:17 p.m. You can watch the eclipse through large telescopes for a charge of $1. So there we go, a little bit about Athena Starwoman, and I think many Australian listeners will remember the name Athena Starwoman, reasonably prominent in the latter part of last century. Again, I think a great deal of that has to do with her very good stage name, Athena Starwoman. Now, I don't have a long list of her predictions, but there's no reason to think that she was any more accurate than any of the gaggle of astrologers, seers, diviners, palmists, and what have you. But you too can find out about all sorts of famous seers and astrologers from the past when you go to Trove at trove.nla.gov.au. Type in your search request, and you never know what you might find. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast, and thank you to those people who continue to support the show via PayPal or Patreon and other ways. My lovely new microphone, my studio microphone that is, I'm using at the moment, is courtesy of the support from listeners to the show, and I'm very grateful indeed. The older microphone, my older studio microphone, I have in reserve. And I have a nice little field microphone for on the go. And Susan Gerbeck always says I have too many microphones. Ha! And just repeating that exciting news from the top of the show, Noticon plus Skepticon, the Australian Skeptics National Convention, which is Skepticon 42, by the way. That's got to be meaningful. And that's mid-July, July the 22nd to the 25th here in Sydney, Australia. Head to skepticzone.tv to look for the link and snap up your tickets. Coming up on next week's show, I think we're going to be looking at the fact that former psychic wonder kid, they come and go, Alison Duvois, you might remember her, the so-called psychic detective who inspired the TV show Medium. She's coming to Australia, and she says she's going to be working on cold cases. We'd like to give her the cold shoulder for exploiting tragedy in Australia for entertainment. We're going to be looking in more detail about what she claims she can do. And well, needless to say, the skeptical community is not overly impressed. Also on next week's show, we'll have the Australian Skeptics newsletter written by Dee, our news editor, and read by Adrienne Hill in snowy Calgary. And coming up soon, maybe even as early as next week, I'm not sure, we're going to be looking at a Canadian TV program called Beyond Reason. This was a show around 1978, 1980, where they had a panel of three psychics, astrologers, clairvoyants, a psychic graphologist, apparently. And they would compete to see which psychic was more psychic than the other psychic. Sort of reminds me of the show I was involved with many years ago. Anyway, this has been brought to my attention by our reporter in Edmonton, Kat McLeod. And I think Kat and I will be taking a closer look at that show from all those years ago. In the meantime, you might want to Google that, Beyond Reason Canadian TV. And I found it very interesting indeed. But for this week, from sunny Sydney, Australia, this is Richard Saunders signing off.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for episodes and show notes with links going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone on Facebook, X, TikTok and YouTube by clicking the links at our homepage, together with links to support the show financially via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are not necessarily those of the Skeptic Zone podcast or any other skeptical organisation.
On the road again. So what we're going to do now, we're going to do a dice game.
We're going to do a dice game.
Yes, we are.
On the road. I don't think he's ever done a dice game on the road before.
So how does this work, Leonard Trammell, the physicist? Will the dice, the die, I just have one die, and it is a 20-sided die. When I roll it, will it fly suddenly back? Because we're going so fast.
Gosh, a 20-sided die. That's going to make it really hard for me to choose a number. I have between 1 and 20. Wow. Okay.
Let me... Psychic Penny predicts. Psychic Penny predicts you will choose a 20.
No, a 5.
Psychic Penny's not on today. Okay, I am going to choose a 13 because I like 13.
What is it?
It is a 7.
Well, I was close.
Yeah, you're closer than me. I had to do some mental math for a second. All right, roll number 2.
I think I'd like to go with a 5 this time.
Surprising. And I'm going to go with, I better change it up to make it interesting. I'm going to go with the number 1. It is a 19. I'm guessing Kat Mac guessed a 19. The other loon from Canada, she always guesses 19. So hopefully you did, Kat, if you're listening. All right, one last roll.
I think I'd like to keep it interesting and go with 5.
And I'm going to go with 20. Guess what number it is?
A 5?
It is.
Yay! I knew it. Of course. I don't know why I'm excited. Of course it's a 5.
And for the bonus or supplemental or whatever we call it, here we go. What are we going to do?
We'll stay with 5.
I guess so, because it's so lucky. And I'm going to take a, 17, because it came into my head. 19 again. I hope you stuck with that number, Kat.
Yeah.
So we had, let's see if I can remember. 7, 19, 5, and the supplemental 19 again. Well, that was fun. Bet you've never done that before, Susan.
No. Thankfully, I wasn't rolling the die as I was driving, because that might have been dangerous. I'd like to see how I would explain that to the highway patrolman that would pull me over as I was swerving through, trying to find the die that might have fallen underneath the gas pedal or something.
All right, well, it's a first for you, Richard. Dice game a la carte.